Everyone, thank you for being so patient. We today are going to hear Michele Holland, who has been a certified infant massage instructor for 30 years. She has sprinkled the gifts of infant massage across her entire 32-year career. She is board certified in therapeutic massage and bodywork. She's a licensed massage therapist. She is a certified birth and postpartum doula with DONA International and a certified lactation consultant. She is the co-author of The Pre and Perinatal Massage Therapy, a comprehensive guide to prenatal, labor, and postpartum practice in its third edition, published in 2021, which, by the way, is up in the raffle. Michele is the founder of Sanctuary Healing Arts LLC, and she teaches online and in person while enjoying a home studio practice in Colorado. Michele's passion is improving maternity and infant care, one pregnancy, one birth, and one new baby and family at a time. She believes we can improve healthcare through listening deeply, trusting in collaboration, and interdisciplinary teamwork with massage therapists, doulas, healthcare leaders, physicians, midwives, nurses, and other skilled professionals for the best outcome for mothers, babies, and families. Michele is passionate about integrating these hands-on healing arts into mainstream maternity and infant care during life's most significant moments, nurturing pregnancies, comforting hearts in hard work during labor and birth, attaching and attuning as we welcome babies earthside, and caring for new parents and their wee ones into their fourth trimesters and beyond. Like pebbles gently tossed into a quiet pond, Michele's mission is replenishing the ripples of skilled touch that connect us now and spread through lifetimes and generations towards a more connected and peaceful world. We ask that if you can share some of your audio and video for this interactive discussion, please do. Keep your microphone muted so we can hear the presentation until Michele opens it up for conversation. We want as many voices as possible, but I'll also be posting in the Q&A section so people can talk and chat. And on that note, Michele, please educate us.
Hi, it is so great to be here with you all, with all these wonderful infant massage educators from all around the country and the world. I live in Colorado and waking up to a beautiful day here. And I just think about all the hundreds, maybe perhaps thousands of times in the 3 decades that I've been able to share this work with families, how excited I get about learning how all of this works. I'm just fascinated. I'm kind of a research geek trying to understand, like, what are the mechanisms, how all of this amazing stuff works in our bodies, and why is infant massage so effective? I did a brief presentation for Infant Massage USA a couple months back and brought up some of this new research that I found when I was writing a book. I had the privilege of co-authoring this book, Pre and Perinatal Massage Therapy, with my beautiful co-authors, Carol Osborne and David Lobenstein. And it was just fantastic to write all of this book about prenatal, labor, and postpartum massage therapy. And when we started writing the book, one of our projects was to update with new research. And as I got into Chapter 6, which was about postnatal massage, I really wanted to find more about the importance of having babies at massage therapy sessions really early on in the early postpartum weeks. And so I came across this fascinating research study, which I'll share with you today. And my goal is really just to help us as infant massage educators be more effective in how we understand the mechanisms that are making infant massage so powerful, and also giving the parents and the caregivers that we're teaching the tools to be able to really understand it's like why this is helping their wee one so much. So I really want this to be an interactive presentation. So welcome on board and please chime in. So I'd love to begin with our objectives. But I would love for us all to learn more about some of the new research, specifically on the epigenetics of early touch, to discuss how new research helps us better understand the powerful and positive impacts of early touch, including infant massage. And then brainstorm how we can implement more impactful education as infant massage educators with some of this new research. And then, of course, when I teach, my goal is to always have fun. So that's where we're going to go for the next hour. So I obviously wanted to start out with defining some of these terms. So what is research? I think all of us know it's the investigation or the experimentation aimed at the discovery and the interpretation of facts, the revision of accepted theories or laws in light of new facts, or practical application of such new or revised theories or laws. And obviously, when we talk about research, when it involves human subjects, there's certainly a lot of ethics around having a study where, somebody receives an infant massage and someone doesn't. So a lot of the research in our field started with animal studies. And there have been fewer studies done on humans, but some of the exciting things that I want to share with you are about human research. So as I was preparing for this presentation, I wanted to update my own research on what I understood about how long it takes for research to get into practice. And I wanted to put this out as a poll for everyone in the group to just take a guess. Like, once research gets published and it's out there, how long does it actually take for it to get into our practice with teaching or caring for people? Take a guess. Stephanie's going to post a poll, and the poll is up. Catherine says 30 years. Yes, that's a long time, Catherine. What do you all think? 3 years. Oh, okay. 3 years. What are some other thoughts? Take a moment to answer the poll. And if your audio is on, you can chime in.
10 years.
10 years. Yeah, 3 to 5 years just to publication, and then even more than that to get it into practice. Yes, that's so true, Justine. Anyone else want to chime in with a number? It's higher than all these numbers. Other than the 30 that Catherine first put in, she clarified that she meant 3, but it's more time than 3 to 5 years. And then, so put in some other guesses. I'd love to hear. Yeah, Colleen has it right. It's 17 years. Way to Google that right quick. It is true. The answer is 17 years. Oh my gosh. So my goal with this is for this research to get into your practice sooner than 17 years. So I'm curious, my next poll question is, do you talk about research when you teach infant massage? And whether you say yes or no, also share why. I know when I taught infant massage, I would often talk about some of Tiffany Field's studies, particularly with preemies, that we know that they gain 47% more weight, right? And they get discharged from the hospital 3 days sooner. What are the things that you share in research in your teaching of infant massage?
Don't be shy, people who are here in the video and audio. You guys can unmute yourselves, just asking questions. I talk about research when I teach infant massage or massage in general because it is important. I feel it's important to connect us to the interdisciplinary aspect of it, that we are looking at a biopsychosocial model. And it's not just about one thing. It's complementary if we can be, because we want, everybody together.
Yeah.
I would add that I also think it's important to talk to with our families, but somehow in a non-scientific sense, if that's possible. So more of the application of it.
I
and
think
trying
as
to
far as
parrot
the poll
what
question,
the
like I
parents
would
experience.
find when I was working in the hospital with patients and doing infant massage that I would use talk about research more than in, like, say, a mom's group. I don't know why.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Justine and Kimberly. Kimberly, I worked in a hospital setting too for many years, and I find what Maggie said in the chat, helping parents understand the why of infant massage. I think we're still overcoming a lot of generational parenting where a lot of people think infant massage is spoiling their infant and they don't understand why it's important. So I think some of this research that speaks to some of the specific health benefits is really important. Would anyone like one else to share? Yeah, Patricia says, I do talk for education, for credibility and context. Great. Super.
I started teaching almost 30 years ago, and then a long break. And in 30 years ago, there was not a lot of research that could be shared. So I'm looking forward to being able to share some things. But I like what the others said too. It really depends on who the audience is, how much you share, and in what way you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that comment. So I'd like to move ahead to talking about what epigenetics it is. Epigenetics is the study of how behaviors and environments can cause changes that affect the way genes work, or what we call gene expression. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are dynamic. They're reversible. They can go in a lot of different direction. They don't actually change our DNA, but they can change how our bodies reads and expresses its DNA. So it's fascinating. I know all of you are familiar with the Human Genome Project. If you go to the NIH's website, the National Institutes of Health, and look at the Human Genome Project, they have some beautiful explanations and visuals of the basics of epigenetics to help people understand some of these core principles. So just as a review here, and this might help us think about how we want to teach this, what is DNA and what are genes? DNA are those molecules in each cell nucleus that carries all the genetic information for the development and the functioning of you, each of us as individuals. Our genes are these actual little colorful segments of our DNA, that double helix that gives us the physical characteristics that makes you unique. And then together, your body has this complete instruction manual that tells your cells how to behave. So when I wrote this beautiful book, this is the study that I came across, and I just would like to read it. And I have to say, it absolutely blew my mind. This was one of the first epigenetic studies that I had come across. And it was not just done with animals, it was done with humans. So let's read through this. The title of the study was Epigenetics Correlates of Neonatal Contacts in Humans. And this was published in Development in Psychology in 2017. The abstract of the study said animal models of early postnatal mother and infant interactions have highlighted the importance of tactile contact for biobehavioral outcomes via the modification of DNA methylation, which is also known as DNAM. So you guys hang on to this. This is kind of heavy science stuff. I had to kind of hold on to something when I read the rest of it. The role of normative variation in contact in early human development has yet to be explored. In an effort to translate the animal work on tactile contact to humans, we applied a naturalistic daily diary strategy to assess the link between maternal contact with infants and the epigenetic signatures of children 4 to 5 years later, with respect to multiple levels of child level factors, including their genetic variation and infant distress. We first investigated DNA methylation at 4 candidate genes. So there were 4 genes that they were really looking at across this study. One was the glucocorticoid receptor gene. The second was the nuclear reactor subfamily 3 group C, member 1, known as NR3C1, an opioid receptor M1 called OPMR1, and of course, one of our favorites that we're familiar with as infant massage instructors is the oxytocin receptor, known as OXTR, which is related to the neurobiology of social bonds and the brain-derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF, which is involved in postnatal plasticity in the brain. When we next examined DNA methylation across the genome, differentially myelinated regions were identified between high and low contact groups of infants. Using a different application of epigenomic information, we also quantified epigenetic age and report that for infants who received low contact from caregivers, they had greater distress associated with a younger epigenetic age. These results suggest that early postnatal contact has lasting associations for child biology. So I have to admit, when I first read this, most of it is like, all of it was over my head. Like, I don't really know a whole lot about the science of these receptors, but I got really curious to understand more about what DNA methylation is. So let's talk about that. What is DNA methylation? It's a chemical reaction in the body when a small molecule called a methyl group gets added to DNA, proteins, and other molecule. The addition of these methyl groups can affect how molecules affect in the body. DNA methylation can alter gene expression through both direct and indirect mechanisms. And for an example, a gene may be turned off, so it doesn't make a protein. So I get really curious, like, about weight gain. Like, I'm so curious how touch could be informing the turning off or turning on of a protein that has to do with so many of the benefits that we see in infant massage. It just got me so excited. I'm really curious for you all, after reading the study, what are your brainstorming ideas about how you might want to integrate this particular research study into your infant massage teaching? And I can go back and we can look at that slide again so that you can see some of that information. What's the nutshell that we would want to share with our families? So I had an idea that I wanted to share with you. So I think of the genes in our bodies as like the notes of music. If you think of this, like each note is like a gene. And then maybe an instrument is how it interprets, right? You could put a violin or a piano or a drum or a cymbal or some type of music to that instrument, and play that note. And that would be the expression, the gene expression of that particular gene. What are some of your other ideas about how you might be able to integrate a study like this and explain something that's pretty complicated scientifically? How could we explain it to our families when we teach? And let's just brainstorm. They're all good ideas. So jump right in the chat and share.
I love that idea that you just gave, and I'm actually thinking about a conductor who is conducting the orchestra and helping different parts of that orchestra, different musicians, different instruments to come in or not come in, or come in quietly or loudly. I love the idea. So thank you.
Yeah. So Maria, that's great. How could we take that idea further? Like, how can we integrate our understanding what we already know about the benefits of infant massage and actually help parents understand that their tactile contact actually changes and facilitates this DNA methylation? I mean, is that mind-blowing to you guys? I mean, this is affecting how our genes express. It's remarkable. So let's keep going with this idea about the music. Think about how you would explain it to a family, whether it was one-on-one or in a group. How would you explain this and maybe tie it to some of the benefits, like weight gain, better sleep, more loving contact? I know I'm putting you all on the spot by asking you to think about this. What are your favorite instruments? And think about how you could explain it in a class. Maybe everyone in the class takes a different, maybe you bring like these little toy instruments to your class, and you have different people in the class playing the same notes of music, but playing it with their own instrument. And then imagine what happens when everyone is playing all their instruments. I think of that as kind of like ideal manifestation of our human potential. I think that's what the human genome studies really show, is like, what are the mechanisms that help us have optimal genetic expression? And we know through all of that we've learned as infant massage instructors about how important it is for that caregiver or parent bond with the child that includes touch, helps with regulating their nervous system, helping them feel more calm, move through tough times easier, sleep better, gain more weight, have more social skills and more interactive skills. I mean, this is really amazing. Margaret's asked a question in the chat. Epigenetic age. Yeah, maybe epigenetic age reflects the type of complexity of the instrument that people will play dependent on the infant touch. Yes, exactly. It's almost like the sophistication of the instrument. So epigenetic age in this study was looking at children that seemed to be younger, like the way their gene expression worked. And their gene expression was that they appeared to be younger than their developmental age. It was like an epigenetic age. That's my interpretation of that in the research study. Yeah. Any other thoughts or ideas about how you can blow people's minds that infant massage is actually changing gene expression? So one of the other things to keep in mind is that I think it helps when I teach infant massage to think about our parents learning in different ways, learning as kinesthetic learners, auditory learners, and visual learners. So when I'm teaching, I try to bring all of those different components to my teaching. I like to have props that people can play with and interact with, things that people can look at, and then also hearing either my voice or a recording. The other thought that I would think that would be really fun is to actually play music in your infant massage classes that was an example that would help illustrate this study, that it's like the gene expression is maybe take a piece of music. Like I went and got this piece of sheet music. This is George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blues piano solo, and find it on my Spotify account and maybe play different versions of it with different instruments. This would be with piano, right? But Rhapsody in Blues could be played with a lot of other different instruments or different versions. There could be a jazzy version or a classic version, and that could be a way to explain gene expression. Like the music, the notes are the same, but how we express them can be different. And I love Kimberly's idea, maybe even taking a minute of listening to a symphony. Yes, that's a great idea, Kimberly. That starts with something simple and then adds each instrument and how it can add different emotions. That's beautiful. And playing music together. Yes, Margaret, that's a great idea. So super. So I completely, my mind was blown by this study, and there are others that I want to share with you. So let's move on. So we talked about what DNA methylation was, that it's that chemical reaction where a methyl group gets added to DNA, a protein, or other molecules. So that's the mechanism, and that will determine if a gene may or may not make a protein or how much of it might make. So pretty cool. So here's another study that I wanted to share with you. Epigenetic protection, maternal touch, and DNA methylation in early life. And this study was published last year, so it's brand new in the current opinion of behavioral sciences. And the abstract says caregiving touch is a crucial component of natural caregiving and constitutes a protective factor with significant impact on infant neurodevelopment. Recent studies highlighted that maternal touch in early life is associated with epigenetic variation between infants. In this current paper, studies that address early caregiving touch in association with DNA methylation will be discussed, positing that the mother-infant touch acts as an epigenetic protective mechanism. Understanding how maternal touch and body-to-body contact can shape the epigenome holds the potential to shed light on the mechanism through which these early tactile experiences advance mental and physical health over the lifetime. I loved this study because it talks about a protective mechanism. Remember what we talked about earlier, that epigenetics is dynamic. It can change. Gene expression can change over time. And this study made me think about the babies that are born into adverse situations. Whether it was the pregnancy was challenging for the mom may have been in a difficult situation, maybe the birth was difficult, or something happened after the birth. And think about these populations that we know benefit from infant massage, that regardless of the genetics, the expression that can be facilitated through this DNA methylation and the skin to skin contact provides a protective mechanism. Also think about it for infants that come into the world under more ideal circumstances. They, at some point in life, will encounter challenges that maybe challenges to their genetic expression, but that this early touch provides a protective mechanism. So I'd love to hear from everyone in the group, those that want to share, what ideas do you have for brainstorming how you might integrate this new research about the protective mechanism that's being posited here? How would you integrate that into your infant massage teaching? I don't want to share all my ideas. I have some ideas, but I want to hear from you all, and then I'll share my ideas.
Sorry to talk again if somebody else wants a turn, but I've also been thinking about trying to help people understand this. And there's a lot of similarities between this and myelination of nerves, so that the more a nerve is used, the more there becomes a direct route for it to be used, and it becomes myelinated, whereas other nerves that were perhaps side by side or nearby don't get that stimulation, so they don't get myelinated. So, and I'm sorry, I don't know how that relates to what your question was just now. But
yeah, I love that you're thinking about ways to weave in our understanding of the effect of tactile touch on myelination of the nerves, and that critical window early in life is where that pruning of the neurons, like babies are born with millions of neurons, and the ones that are used are the ones that are myelinated, and those signals travel and conduct faster to the brain, both sensory and motor, right? Mm-hmm. And when babies are in lower touch situations, or certain nerve receptors aren't used, they're literally pruned away. So how do we connect that, Maria? I love this idea. How do we connect that to DNA, the methylation, and the protective mechanism? I had this idea of like a blanket, Linus and the Peanuts, how he's always carrying around the blanket, that this infant massage, through this exquisite early touch that we provide to our babies, that it is like putting a blanket, a comfort blanket around this infant. The way its genes are expressed then have this kind of resiliency, would be how I would think of it, is that it's this protective mechanism. And I hope these researchers, they're in Italy, I hope they keep going with this, because I'm really fascinated about how this protective mechanism could help, as it says in the last sentence, advance mental and physical health over the lifetime. I welcome other ideas. Linus's blanket. Any other thoughts how you could explain this protective mechanism? I also sometimes, go ahead.
Like a hug that just keeps going.
Like a hug that just keeps going. That's a great idea, Maria. It's like when that child needs that virtual hug, it's epigenetic expression, and the epigenetic foundations that have been laid with this early touch is like a hug that keeps going. That's beautiful. What a great idea. So I'm curious, have any of you heard about this DNA methylation? Are these studies new to you? No? Some of you have been reading about them. I see some nods, yes, and some no. Great. Great. Wonderful. So there's one more study that I wanted to move ahead to. Here's another one. Epigenetic dynamics in infancy and the impact of maternal engagement. I love how these researchers are covering this from different angles. This is a 2019 study on the epigenetic dynamics in infancy and the impacts on maternal engagement that was published in Science Advances. So here's the abstract. And I think this, probably more so than any of the other studies, is a lot easier for me to understand and apply in my teaching. The contribution of nature versus nurture to the development of human behavior has been debated for centuries. Here, we offer a piece to this complex puzzle by identifying the human endogenous oxytocin system, known for its critical role in mammalian society. As a system sensitive to its early environment and subject to epigenetic changes, recent animal work suggests that early parental care is associated with changes in DNA methylation of conserved regulatory sites within the oxytocin receptor gene, called OXTR with a little M after it, through didactic modeling of behavior and the OXTRM status across the first year and a half of life. We translated these findings to 101 human mother-infant dyads. We show that the oxytocin receptor gene is dynamic in infancy, and its change is predicted by internal maternal engagement and reflective of behavioral temperament. We provide evidence for an early window of environmental epigenetic regulation of the oxytocin system, facilitating the emergence of individual differences in human behavior. Pretty cool. I don't know if I just geek out on this stuff and if other people get as excited about it as I do. But having been in the bodywork field for 30 years, I've always been so curious, like, what are the mechanisms that make touch work? What is the mechanism? Is it magic? Why do these babies gain weight more? Why are they more socially interactive and socially responsive? Why are they more empathetic as young children and adults? It's like, this to me explains so much of the mechanism of the why of infant massage and how it works. And I'd love, again, to post the question in the poll to the group. What are your brainstorming ideas about how you will integrate this new research study into your infant massage teaching? So I'll open up the floor again. Yeah, Crystal says, and it's so simple. Margaret says, I love it. So I don't know if any of you like to play Scrabble or Bananagrams or any of those games. I love them both. And as I was thinking about this presentation and like, oh gosh, how would I explain some of this gene expression to parents? I again thought of these ideas of kind of the building blocks. Okay, you have your DNA, you have your gene, and then this methylation process happens. And so I thought about getting out all the letters, like all the little plaques with all the little letters on them, and like putting them out on the floor. You know, we're usually teaching infant massage on the floor, right? And I thought it would be so fun to just scatter out some letters and explain. It's like, okay, gene and then start putting them together to spell fun words like love or oxytocin. You could do something where you're demonstrating the pieces of that are, the basic building blocks, and then you add touch to them and it starts to pull the words together. And there you have gene expression and the way a person says it, maybe the language that they use to say the word love, right? Or the word that they use to say oxytocin. Yeah, Maria had another great idea, using baby blocks with letters and colors. That would be fabulous. Again, to use an auditory, a visual, and a kinesthetic tool in your teaching to explain these epigenetic changes that this new research is showing us is so powerful. So yeah, I took out my pairs and pairs game, which is another option. If you guys have ever seen that, it's another version of bananagrams, and it has little tiles with letters on it. So you could make all kinds of fun words. What are some other ideas of how you could implement some fun new ways of teaching this in your classes? Let's keep brainstorming for another couple minutes. And feel free to unmute and join in. Legos, Patricia, that's a great idea. I have so many Legos. Both my boys are 23 and 26. I have a whole thing of Legos in my garage. That's a super idea. My son actually emailed me the other day. He's like, Mom, how much money do you think you spent on Legos for me as a kid? I was like, I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, hopefully we have some of this fun stuff still around our homes that we could use. What are some other ideas? Patricia is crying in the chat. She thinks that's funny.
You could use like different color sticky notes and put different letters on them, and then kind of break up into groups and spell different words.
Yeah.
If it's a group of moms or parents.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kimberly. Love that. I find sometimes too that some of these little icebreaker exercises are really helpful. I don't know if you notice that sometimes parents, especially if they don't know each other, are always comparing themselves or trying to do the infant massage correctly, and doing some of these other icebreaker things that kind of get them using a different part of their brain are really helpful. Lauren had a great idea. You could use a simple puzzle. Absolutely. That's a great idea. Yeah, I personally find these studies a little over my head scientifically, but I want to be able to understand them just enough to be able to help parents understand that we are finding these remarkable things now that we know the human genome and it's been mapped out. We can really look at these environmental things that we used to just think of as nurture, right? But how nurture and nature are working together, that the environment that we provide, the touch, the healthy touch, the interaction, the eye contact, all the beautiful things that come with infant massage, that environment that the baby is in actually has a strong impact on genetic expression. And the mechanism is methylation. It's wild. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world. So I'm really happy that I could come today to share some of these studies with you and just have some fun brainstorming together about simple ways that we can help parents understand that infant massage is not a luxury. It's not spoiling. It actually changes our DNA's gene expression. And that across the lifetime, there's beginning to be evidence that it provides protective mechanisms across the lifetime. Colleen's asking the question, wondering about caregivers experiencing the benefits of massage and how might this influence their massage with the infant. Great question, Colleen. So are you talking about the caregivers, their benefit with providing the massage? Definitely. Do you remember years ago, there were the grandparent studies where they had grandparent volunteers that gave infant massage to babies that were orphaned or in foster care. And not only did the babies benefit, but they found that the grandparent volunteers did as well. So I would feel very confident as a massage therapist over 30 years saying that I have benefited as well when I've had the opportunity thousands and thousands of times to provide massage, mostly to adults, but to children as well, that there was a benefit to me. And there was probably some great DNA methylation going on in my body too. That's a great comment, Colleen. It's like how touch affects all of us and how positive it can be. Studies to come. Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay. All right. I just want to open up the floor as we're finishing for any further brainstorming and any questions. Yes, Patricia says, I believe touch protects babies from feeling rejected and abandoned. Yes, it's their biological promise. They've been in utero, being massaged by the wall of the mom's uterus for months and months and months. They've been experiencing that. And I often say, what would it be like for you to be in that beautiful muscular envelope for 10 months, up to 10 months, and then all of a sudden come out and not have that tactile sensation? It would feel rejecting and abandoning. That's why we know that breastfeeding, where there's that skin-to-skin contact, where we know that baby wearing, where there's that beautiful wearing of the baby, even if it's not skin to skin. You know, in some cultures, babies don't even wear diapers. The moms or a caregiver that's carrying the baby is so cued in to the baby's subtle body movements that it can tell when the baby needs to pee or poop, and they just take the baby out of the baby wearing sling and just hold the baby out, and the baby does their business and the baby gets back in. Of course. Yes. Any other questions or thoughts, epiphanies about how you would like to share this new research on the epigenetics of early touch?
I've been with parents who were recovering from substances,
Yes.
substance misuse, and the sadness that they have had in their own selves about what they've gone through, and then what they've potentially given to the baby, with not intentionally, but still having happened, and the hope that this provides for both the parent, as somebody else, as Colleen was mentioning before, for both the parent, because it is a dynamic process to continue to be developing, and also a gift for the baby.
Yes. I love that, Maria. And that really, I mean, infant massage was what started my career path into pre and perinatal, because I realized that touch actually for an infant begins in utero. And that's their first touch experience. And so that's what led me into the prenatal massage field, and has just, I continue to be so thrilled about seeing the effects of how potent and simple this is. And all of this, I know from seeing over 3 decades, the power, but then now to really understand more about the mechanism of why it's so powerful is just so exciting to me. I welcome any other questions or thoughts. We still have about 5 minutes. I have just 2 more closure slides, but would love to hear from anyone else. You're welcome, Stephanie. Stephanie's fantastic, by the way. She has been amazing to work with. I wanted to just mention at the end of my presentation are all these references, and I bolded the ones, I bolded the ones which were the ones that we discussed in the last hour so that you could go back and look at those more closely. There are a couple of other studies that are in here that are kind of closely related. If you want to dive in a little bit more, feel free to dive into those. But it's just exciting. Almost all of these research studies, if you look through the dates of most of these, many of these are 2022, 20 and 2020, so 2021. So just really cool stuff that's just come out in the recent last couple of years. So please go take a look at those studies and stay connected through signing up for feeds for different research studies on different topics that interest you, and just continue to stay in the forefront so that it's not going to take 17 years for these really wonderful new studies to get into your practice of teaching infant massage. And I'd love to stay in touch. Here's my contact information. And feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in any in-person or online courses. I like to work in an interdisciplinary way with all types of professionals that take care of mothers and babies and new families. And I'd love to see you. So Maria's asking, are there any general domains or do you need access to a research service? That's a really good question. There are several different research services out there. If you use Google, there's Google Scholar, which is pretty accessible. I think that's one of the most accessible. There are others like Biomed Central. You can go to a public library or to a university, and any teaching university will have great access to the full libraries of research studies. Sometimes you can find abstracts on the internet pretty easily, but getting the full study may be more challenging unless you go to a public library or you know someone or you yourself work at an institution like that. So Margaret says she's a librarian. Go to the biomedical library at the university and a librarian will do the research for you. Awesome. So that's the way we can stay on the edge of this and continuing to come to great conferences like this. I want to thank Infant Massage USA for inviting me to come and share these thoughts with you about some of the new research in epigenetics and why our work as infant massage instructors is so important. I thank you all for being here and enjoy your day. I look forward to seeing you in the conference because I'll be attending the rest of the day. Margaret also adds that the Library of Congress has also intake for research questions, and we'll get back to you. Thanks so much.